Hey everyone, James LaRue from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Talking into Infinity, a Dream Theater podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the cmsnetwork.com. We are live at those four fine locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube, do not forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you'd like to catch video replays of the show, check out our YouTube channel. All of our episodes are there. Check out the YouTube channel of the CMS Network. And if you'd like to download audio versions of the podcast, just Google Talking into Infinity, and we're pretty much anywhere you can find audio podcasts. Without further ado, let me bring on my very good friend, Mr. Brian Hendrickson. He's currently in the green room in a state of suspended animation, but let's bring him on with some terminal velocity. Here he is, my good friend Brian. What's up, man? How was that for an intro?
That was awesome, man. It was really good. I was not expecting that was completely out of the blue.
I realized I was trying to think of song titles. I was like, crap, I drew a blank. And then I was like, ooh, one's slow and the other one is fast. Let's do this.
Well, I wrote out the whole set, so I should have some for later on. But
oh, you did that too? Nice. Yeah, all right. Yeah. I brought that to the table as well. I figured we'd need to,
Oh, before we get into that, I don't know what prompted this, but I'm looking. We have comments at 7:04 where you talk about the day you had. We are lucky that you are gracing us with your presence. Not only that, A, but B, that you're sober.
Yes.
So what kind of a day did you have post John Petrucci?
Well, this is predicated. Cody M commented at 6:47 p.m., so a full 43 minutes before we went live. He says, live stream canceled. And I saw that when I jumped on at 7:04, and I said, my ass. After the day I've had, everyone's lucky I'm not showing up to this thing hammered.
Okay.
Yeah, I spent my commute to work. My commute to work is between 35 and 40 minutes. I spent 2.5 hours in traffic today, so it was an hour this morning, and I was like, boy, that sucks. And then on the way home, it was an hour and a half. So I have had a couple beers and a little bit of bourbon, so I'm not drunk, but I'm a little buzzed, but just a little bit because I got to take the edge off. I was just sitting there like, you got to be kidding me. So yeah, it was kind of a crazy day. So I'm glad we're doing this, man. It's like, this is like the perfect time to do a podcast, a negative day on the roads. It's a perfect time to talk about what a kick-ass concert we saw last night. So, so first of all, what did you do? Because you were late. So why were you late to the show?
Well, I had to work late, A, and B, I just, 100% honesty, transparency. I was not that interested in seeing the opener.
Okay.
So I did get there, I think, to see the last 2 or 3 songs.
Okay.
And it was okay. It was kind of what I expected. Just really not my thing. And anymore, it's like, I don't like sitting around forever before concerts start, Also, like, I was bummed because, well, we'll get into that in a second, I guess. I wanted to go, you guys were meeting up with some of the Dream Theater fan group guys.
Yeah.
Or you were thinking of doing it. I don't know if you did. We'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to do all that. But then I'm like, well, man, I'm going to have to get down there so insanely early, and I bust out of work. And it's just sitting around too long anymore. And we talked about this after it was over, like, he didn't even start until it was at 9:15.
Yeah,
You
9:15.
know, and I'm trying not to sound like old to get off my lawn guy, but I mean, look at the average age of the people at that show, right? You know what I mean? You just can't tell me there's no reason these kind of shows on a Wednesday night, you know, in cold weather, in the middle of the week, let's just start the thing by 8:30. You know what I mean? And again, it's going to sound, you know, but you know, we're not like going out there to get plastered and stay out till 1 a.m. anyway. You know what I mean? And there's plenty of time for them to, you know, especially with just a 3-piece, they don't have a ton of stuff to set up and this and that. I don't know. I just think in general, like I would definitely enjoy those type of shows a lot more if they fit into my schedule how I want them to.
So what you're saying is that your hip was bothering you and your prostate, you know, was not agreeing. Is that what we're?
No, I'm not saying that. I didn't see the average age there as being like, you know, anything under 55. You know?
Yeah, dude, it was
sure it was. You know, you had some young kids. I saw one young girl up in the balcony. It was like 8, but I think that was okay. Hey, if you go with Dad to the concert, you know, I'll shell out the $2,000 for those Taylor Swift tickets to Cincinnati or something. I thought there was some kind of deal making going on in that.
Sure.
Did you have some younger people down there on the floor? Because we were totally opposite. I was in the balcony, and you were what, 4th row?
3rd row, yeah, third row center, and yeah, like when he pointed, he said, you know, is there anybody like when he was talking about like, oh, we formed the band, you know, when we were 18. Is there anybody here who's 18? And he pointed at the crowd, and he's like, really, 18? Like they were literally over my left shoulder behind me. So these 2 kids were there. It was 2 of them, not even just one. It was like 2 kids. They were like buddies hanging out at the John Petrucci show. I thought that was really cool. And, you know, there was, we'll get to this when we talk about hanging out with the Dream Theater USA fan club, which is good to see Everett and Robert Reams and all those guys. But, Chris Aiken in the chat, good to see you, man. He says, Brian was late because he was stuck at his 4:30 supper. #Gramps.
I like the term supper too. What time is supper?
Yeah, when is supper? Yeah, so yeah, the kids were behind me, but I mean in front of us, it was, I mean, and I'm not using this term, you know, to be derogatory, but it was people with white hair. I was shocked. Like I understand that like it's an, you know, not a young crowd that gets into Dream Theater and, you know, the musicians in the band and stuff like that, but I was really kind of surprised. There were, I mean, I'm not even joking. I think the 2 people that were like, you know, 2nd row center in front of us, they at least were in their late 60s.
Yeah,
it was crazy. I'm like, what are they, man? Like that's, I at first I thought like, okay, what are they doing here? And then I thought, well, that's pretty fucking cool. Like I hope I'm still going to these shows and I'm in my late 60s. You know, that's awesome. So. Yeah, I got there. I got there as Mean Streak was starting, and me and my buddy Jimmy were there, and we weren't in our seats for the first song. We were grabbing a beverage, so we did that, and then we basically sat down, like, you know, as they're going into their second song. So I heard the whole set, but I saw, you know, all but one. And it was cool, man. It was interesting. I was listening to the riffs and stuff like that, and it's like you could tell it's very, you know, 80s, because they said, you know, it's the 30-year reunion tour. They joked about that, and you know, and it you know, to me, the riffs were kind of simplistic and everything like that, but you know, it hit pretty good. The drummer was cool as hell to me. The drummer kind of looked like a female Joey Belladonna to me. Like if you look at Joey Belladonna with like the crooked baseball cap and like the, you know, I'm the Man video and stuff like that. And as I was like watching the show, it's like it kind of hits you that, okay, well, that's Mike Portnoy's wife, that's John Petrucci's wife, that's, you know, John Mayung's wife. And it kind of changed my experience because it really kind of gave it a familial feel. And it made it kind of fun. It made it a little more personal, a little more intimate, you know. And it was, I thought, I was thinking to myself, like, that's got to be kind of cool, you know. And like we were talking before we jumped on air, the lead singer, you know, you could tell she was a little awkward working the crowd. I'm sure, you know, I don't know what she does, but you could tell it was a little weird for her. But I'm looking at her like, man, like, I wonder what she does for a living. Like, because, you know, like the 3 Dream Theater wives, you know, they've got their income. They don't gotta, you know, they don't gotta do whatever. this woman, I'm going, okay, is she a teacher? Like, is she an accountant? Does she have to like go to her boss and be like, hey, like, I need like a month and a half off. I need to leave because I got to go on tour. Like, so yeah, Chris Aiken, yeah, he says joy, Belladonna. Exactly. Yeah, she was cool, man. It was interesting, and it was so weird to see like Mike Portnoy's wife playing guitar. And I get it, like just because your last name is Portnoy doesn't mean you have to play drums, but I think in your mind you kind of picture like if it's Portnoy, it's drums. But no, she was like the rhythm guitar player. She played a couple leads here and there, and I mean it was cool.
So is the drummer the only one that's not related to anyone?
The singer as well.
Okay.
So it was. And I mean, the bass player and the lead guitar player, it was obvious because the lead guitar player is John Petrucci's wife, and she's playing this beautiful sparkle blue Majesty. And then John Mayung's wife is playing this beautiful, like, red sparkle Mayung signature bass. Like, it was, pretty obvious. In fact, we were wondering as the show was going on, like, we were wondering if John's wife, Rena Sands, if she was playing through his rig. I just pictured that, like, all right, you're coming on tour, but you're playing on my rig. It makes it easier on Maddie, my tech.
Nice.
So, I mean, did you enjoy the couple songs that you got to see, or?
There was a couple parts in a song or two. It just wasn't for me. I mean, I don't know who's supposed to open for John Petrucci. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a ridiculously tall ask. Let alone you throw in Portnoy up there too. Like that's just. I mean, who's going to be able to pull that off? I don't know. You just have Liquid Tension Experiment open for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Joe Satriani, you know what I mean? I mean, he's not going to, he's going to be more of a headliner. You know what I'm saying? So So, it was fine. I mean, again, it's, you can make the old jokes all you want, but it's like, I just kind of like now when I'm out, like, I know what I want to see, I know what I want to do. And like, I just don't really like the risk of sounding like, I don't know what the word is, but like I just don't want to waste my time, I guess. If I know I'm not going to be into something, I'm probably not going to mess around. If it's a Friday night, it's another story. But like I said, it's a Wednesday. Like, I don't want to get down there 3 hours early or whatever. But So go back to that. So did you meet up with some of the fan club guys then, or?
I did. Real quick, Chris Minix checking in. Good to see you, man. He says, hi, guys. Good to see you, bro. Joe Gebhardt says, I didn't know Mayung's wife was in the band as well. Yeah, she is the bass player. So there were 3 Dream Theater wives. That's actually how they all met, was because, they're all musicians and stuff, which is pretty crazy. I met up with the guys from the Dream Theater USA fan club, Everett and Robert Reams. Robert Reams and I actually hung out at Barrio, and then we went over to Pizza 216, and we were hanging out for quite a bit. So there he is. So there's Robert Reams. So what's up? Checking in. Perfect timing, man. We're talking about you right now. So yeah, Robert and I hung out at Barrio and at Pizza 216, and I introduced him to some really good Cleveland food, and it was a good time, man. And seeing Everett was really cool. It was a good time, man. We were sitting there just bullshitting, and there was a guy from Detroit there. I'm trying to think what the other guy's name was. He was at the first hangout that you and I were at for the View from Top of the World. I think his name is John. I'm bad with names, so I apologize if he's tuned in. But and come to find out, when I sit down, he's actually immediately in the seat next to me. So
nice.
Didn't know that. But yeah, it was cool. There was like 5 or 6 of us, and it was a really good time. There was a security guy that came over from the House of Blues. He was only 19 years old, and we started grilling him with questions like, how are you into Dream Theater? And, like, what's your favorite record? Like this, that, and the other. And it was fun talking to him because it was a very fresh perspective. He said he just got into him like 2 or 3 years ago, and just completely went down the rabbit hole. And he's just hooked, and he knew all the song titles and stuff. And it was fun. It was really cool talking to him, and we just had a great conversation. It was, just like I said, it was 6 of us just kind of sitting there bullshitting about Dream Theater, and it was a great time. Those guys are really, really nice, and there's no trivia this time. So it was funny because Everett mentioned to the guys, he's like, yeah, this guy with the trivia, because I won the one that we were at. And I looked over at the dude from Detroit. I was like, don't mess with me, because this guy was talking about like Spock's beard and all these crazy side projects. I'm like, don't think I'd beat his ass. That guy knows way more than I do.
Yeah.
So our good friend Kristen Goodwin is checking in. She says, finally made it to a live. Whew. So sad I missed the DC fan club meetup. Well, the fan clubs are great, Kristen. So if you ever get a chance to go hang out with the fan, it's great. You lose track of time talking music with those guys. They do a great job. So definitely check that out. Chris Minnick, he says, saw the show last Saturday in Minneapolis. Curious to get your take on the show. Well, Chris, we weren't in Minneapolis, so I can't give you my opinion.
Yeah.
Sorry, I beat Brian to the joke.
What we saw of it was amazing.
Yeah, the online
So I
videos.
do have a question. Did you get your order that you wanted at Pizza 216? Because you like had that thing scoped out like days in advance. What you were
hell
getting
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yep. Sausage, grilled chicken, and fresh mozzarella. And then we tried the garlic knots. I mean, this is fascinating for all the Dream Theater fans. But, yeah, no, it was good, man. And so, Robert and I were hanging out with the guys from the fan club at Barrio. And then we went down the street to Pizza 216. Just he and I were bullshitting and stuff like that. And then met up with my buddy Jimmy. And he and I went over and hung out a corner alley for a bit. Had a few drinks, and then went into the show. And it would, like I said, got there right as Mean Streak was starting. And it was a cool night, man. It was like everything went smoothly. It was like easy to get in and out. I saw a lot of friends, like musician buddies of mine were there, which is really cool. And it was, man, oh man, it's one of those weird things. Like, I'll jump in with you on the whole, like, oh, don't play so late. Like, I'll do my own thing. It's like it's nice. It's nice to have a show that's easy to get in and out of, and not be like forcing my way to the front and dealing with a mosh pit and all that kind of crap. It's like, actually having seats was kind of nice, even though we were crammed in like sardines. It doesn't help that I'm a fat piece of shit, but
yeah, I was trying to look down. I was going to try to run down there real quick between the two bands, and I sort of didn't, but I was trying to look, and I'm like, where are the seats even there? Like, I'm like, it looks like everyone was standing, but was it so cramped that you couldn't even hardly sit, or what was the deal there?
No, you could sit, and it was definitely, assholes to elbows. I mean, they really had those seats. Like, there was no room.
Okay.
So, but we were standing for Petrucci because it was just, it was rocking. So it's like about halfway through the show, he went into a mellow song, and we'll get into the set list here in a minute. He went into a mellow song, and we kind of stood up and, sat down and got like a little bit of a break. So, Chris Aiken, he asks, sold out or close to it? No, it was a sold out show. Actually, most, if not all, of the dates on this tour sold out, and relatively quickly too. This was a popular tour, man, and it helps that it's the only time he's ever done it, so you don't know if he's ever going to do it again. So, especially when it's like 15, 16 years between records. So I guess in 15, 16 years, Brian, when we're on episode like 428 of Talking Into Infinity, we'll do this episode again.
I mean, the odds I'm alive in 15, 16 years. I wouldn't take that bet for sure.
Right. John Horgan, thanks for checking the show out, man. Appreciate it. He says cramped for sure. Yeah, it was tight. So
there must have been something scary about me, and save your comments to yourself. But man, I had like a 5-minute pat down with the metal detectors to get in there. It was just me, because I got there later, and like there's no one else in front of me or behind me. And it was like, yeah, turn around, I'll do this, I'll do this. I'm like, what kind of terrorists do they think show up at a Petrucci, John Petrucci Portnoy show? I don't know. It was a little strange. It wasn't like we were going to see, Slipknot or something. I don't know. It was weird.
Right. Yeah, I didn't, and my belt buckle's metal. I'm always like, metal belt buckle, watch, couple rings, like take the crap out of my pockets, and they wave and like, okay, go through, like, So that's man, Robert Reams. It was almost like going through TSA.
Yeah, it really was. It just struck me as odd. I'm like, okay, look at the crowd that's in here. Like, I don't know. I guess the guy was probably bored because no one had come through in a while, so he's gonna get his $9 an hour or whatever, worth of work out of him.
Right. Like Kristen Goodwin, obviously potential for a lot of contraband.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
sure. Yeah, but it was, it was nice to get in and out quickly and, just have a place to sit, know where you're going. I mean, that's why I got there pretty much right as the show was starting, because it's, normally for a general admission show, you got to get in, fight your way up front, try and get like a good view. And this one, not so much. It was cool.
That was the other thing, was when I got there, Bob was already in his seat, obviously. They were, I think, about 2/3 through the set or whatever, 3/4. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking, and of course he's dead in the middle of this row of 20 seats. And I knew that they only had like 3 songs, and I'm like, well, this is kind of stupid. I'm like, I'm not even gonna. I'll just wait till they're done, So I just in the back until then or whatever. And I was good. I did not get one of the $16, beers, although they are 24 ounces. But I was just like, I was just in that full old guy mode of like, I'm just not paying this,
Of course,
well,
you were.
We did the same thing with the merch. We both kind of looked at it, or like, we kind of want it, but $50,
I would have bought the T-shirt if I wasn't closing on a house soon. I'm like, all right, I got to be somewhat responsible, because, and of course, I think that way at the merch table, and yet, at the bar, Jimmy and I walk in, and they're like, I'm like, Miller Lite and a twisted tea. Okay, $27.
No.
13 more bucks, I could add a T-shirt, but no, I've got to have a tall boy. So
you did bring up a good point about the venue, though, and it's, I guess, because the last 3 or 4 shows I was at were at the Agora. I hadn't been at House of Blues in a while. I could not believe how small it is. Like, and I guess it was just from being at the Agora, and not that the Agora is massive, but I sat down and I'm like, Bob, like, we saw Kill Switch here. Like, it didn't look this small then, But you just, like, I don't know, you get a new perspective once you haven't been there in a while, and you're like, man, this place really is. But it's, I still maintain there is no better place to see a show than being in the balcony there at House of Blues. I mean, you're right there. I mean, you can see everything great. You have an awesome seat. The sound is amazing. Like, no one's like bothering you. And the worst thing you have to deal with maybe is some people, watching the whole show through their phones. But people are actually pretty good about that, honestly.
Yeah. So I want to bring up Joe Gebhardt's comment, and then you mentioned something that I was going to bring up. So real quick, Joe Gebhardt says, was the atmosphere similar to a Dream Theater show, or was there more involvement from the crowd? Usually Dream Theater's crowd is on the quieter side, just enjoying the show and music. No, it was basically that. I would actually say it was less than a Dream Theater show, really. Because it was basically like it was an hour and 45-minute long guitar solo, Joe. So you're kind of just sitting there going, I mean, I know me, like, and we'll get to this later, but every single song as it ended, I went, God damn. Like, it's just, you're like, what am I watching? So yeah, it was a little bit more laid back than a Dream Theater show, honestly. But
we did have one dude in the balcony, and you obviously wouldn't have seen him. And it was just that one guy where you're like, all right, I'm glad we're not sitting by him, because remember the scenes from A Memory, the dude busting his head open and all this and that.
Yes.
This wasn't quite there, but he finally sort of settled down halfway through. But man, I mean, the first 3 or 4 songs, he's standing, he's like flailing, and he's like 2 rows from the balcony. I'm like, I'm glad this guy's not in the front, because I mean, the way he's like just going crazy. And I mean, good for him, man. He's getting into it, and he's really rocking out. And I was glad, but also it's like, okay, you don't want to sit next to this guy for 4 songs, because it's just
right.
It's annoying. A and B are like afraid he's going to hurt himself or hurt somebody else.
You were looking for a stage monitor to put in front of him, be like, all right, let's get this guy to bust his head open and get out of here, like in 2019 in Chicago. Real quick, so all right, so Michael Gall Productions says it was good meeting you guys at Pizza 216. Yeah, man, it was awesome sitting next to him bullshitting, dude. Thanks for tuning into the show. Michael is and if I'm getting your name wrong, I apologize, Michael. I'm notoriously terrible with names, so. But yeah, Robert and I sat down next to this dude, and we just ended up bullshitting and stuff. I admittedly, I did walk in. I saw him as I was sitting down, and he's wearing a Sweetwater hat, and I went, "You're going to the John Petrucci show, aren't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Yep, saw the Sweetwater hat." So,
how did you know he wasn't going to Bullet Boys at Grog Shop? Did you know that was last night too?
I had no idea.
Yeah, they played there. I was trying to see how many people actually went to that. Like, I would have totally gone to that at the Grog Shop. Hell yeah, why not? I think it was like $12 to get in or something. I kind of feel bad for him.
Wow. Why? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our Talking Into Infinity poll of the night. Would you
Right.
rather see John Petrucci solo tour or Bullet Boys with Mark
Right.
Torian? Put your votes in the chat. So,
Yeah, I heard they did a great show.
yeah. So you mentioned something about people on their phones and everything, dude. So I was absolutely shocked at the amount of people that were like filming things because of the age of the crowd. Like I thought that was 20s, 30s, whatever, like people younger than you and I thought that was something that they did. And man, there was this one guy up in the front row at the corner, like right at the corner of the stage. He filmed pretty much the entire show. He's just sitting there with his phone like this, like just sitting there, like watching a show, just like looking at the show. Like, I mean, the whole time I'm like, what are you doing? And there were a lot of people doing that. Like I have one video from the show and it's like not even 2 minutes long. And it's like Mike Portnoy, like doing like an extended jam at the end of one of the songs. And I'm like, dude, I haven't seen Mike Portnoy live in, at least with John Petrucci since 2010. So like, I want to get something. I was taking pictures to put on our pages and stuff. But these people are filming a ton of stuff. And I'm going, what the heck? Where are you going to post this? Like, are you going to really go back and watch all this? Like, especially that guy. I'm like, are you going to go home and like plug your phone into something and like download it and be like, yeah, here's the whole John Petrucci show. Like, I couldn't understand.
Yeah,
Like, it was the weirdest thing to me.
I've had two. I might have brought this up before. I had two instances of shows before. One of which was Bryan Adams acoustic. It was basically him and a piano player, and it was down at Playhouse Square. It was an amazing, amazing show. And right in front of me, his chick's got her phone out. And I let her go for like a minute, and then I tapped her on the shoulder, and she's like, she got literally scared. She's like, I'm sorry. Like, and then it was done because I'm like, I'm not going to sit and watch this through your phone when it's right there, literally right there in front of me, like. And then another time was when Bob and I were at Kill Switch. It was the same thing. This dude's right in front of us. And like, if you film it on the side, and it bothers me, but it's not like I'm looking at trying to watch the show and I got to watch through your phone, But it was the same thing. And this guy was like, "Rah, rah, rah," like I thought he was going to like do something, but
how was that again?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, first of all, the dude was he was so hammered he could barely even hold his phone up as it was, And I was like, dude, you're not going to do that all night. And he's just like, he just stares at me like I'm just completely insane for, that's the part that gets me. Like, you're just totally nuts for telling someone to stop. Like, this is kind of where we are with this. But yeah, there was people filming it, in the balcony, but it wasn't nonstop, and it was here and there. And again, as long as it's not right, in my eyes view of the thing. But I don't get it. You're missing the whole damn experience when you do that. And then, like you said, you're not going to watch it because it's going to look and sound like crap, because somebody with a really good phone or whatever recording device is already going to put it on YouTube. So just watch it on there,
Yep. Yeah. Kristen Goodwin, she says, literal boomer buddy next to me in the front row at my show with his phone right in his face. I mean, JP and Dave LaRue were 3 inches from our faces, and you have your phone in your face? Michael Gall Productions, he says, I went to Tool at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and they would kick you out if you took your phone out.
Good.
Shades of the Astonishing Tour. Robert Husted, pretty simple. Taking some pictures and videos of the show is all right, but not the entire show. Yeah, I'm with you. What are you doing? Dude, I got annoyed with myself. I was trying to get that little bit of video footage of Portnoy playing, and I'm like looking around my phone. I'm going, what the hell are you doing, you dickhead?
Yeah, because it's the show because you're trying to film it.
Yeah, it's and people say like, oh, well, it's the same thing, and I can film what I want when I want this. It's like, yeah, but I did it last night, and I don't ever really do that, like taking video. But as I'm doing it, I'm looking at the phone, making sure it's centered and stuff. And I was like, and then I would look around the side and look at it happening. I'm like, it's a totally different experience. Like this, I don't get it. Like, I was that guy for about a minute, and then I was like, what are you doing? So
you actually got some really good pictures. I couldn't get anything good from where I was. I tried getting one at the end, and it was like everyone's already standing. It's just, that is, I guess, the downside if you want to get some decent pictures about.
Yeah,
probably not the place to do it. But I mean, I guess I could have walked downstairs real quick.
I basically I took them to post on our Twitter and Facebook pages and stuff like that. Twitter at TIIDT Podcast if you guys want to follow us. Obviously, we got the Facebook page. Some of you guys are tuned into the Facebook page, so thanks for that. yeah, I just wanted to have some stuff to post, and I figured I'd post them after we talked about it tonight. So, I mean, getting into the show itself, Brian, when I downloaded the set list today, and you did the same thing, I was actually kind of surprised. Like, a full disclosure, like I know the material, but instrumental stuff tends to blend together for me, so I'm terrible with song titles and what record it comes from and stuff like that. So I was really surprised. It was an 11-song show. It was about an hour and 45 minutes, and out of the 11 songs, only 4 of them were from Suspended Animation. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised because Terminal Velocity is the new record. But on a tour like this, I wasn't thinking, okay, well, he's going to play everything, from the new record because it's the new record. I'm like, well, he's only got 2, and he's never toured before. So I thought it would be like more of an even balance, but it wasn't. It really leaned heavily on the Terminal Velocity stuff. So that was kind of interesting. And my very first reaction to the show, and I'll be interested to get your first reaction. I could not stop watching Portnoy. And it's not because I'm like, oh, I hope he gets back in Dream Theater. It's nothing to do with that. It wasn't even, holy shit, I haven't seen him with John Petrucci since you and I saw. I mean, dude, honestly, the last time we saw Portnoy with Dream Theater live was that show we saw in Columbus, one of the 4 headliners they did on the Black Clouds tour when we were down in Columbus, Ohio. And it wasn't even that. It was just, dude, that guy has this stage presence and this magnetism to him. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like watching him like, oh yeah, John Petrucci, and I'd watch him and I go back and forth. And I felt like really guilty because then I'm like, oh yeah, there's a bass player. And Dave LaRue is world class. So, I mean, what was your initial reaction once the whole thing kicked off?
I think, like you said, I think it added a lot. I think, and I'm interested to get your take on this because he kind of did what the cover band drummer guys do in the party bands. I don't know if your drummer does this or not, maybe not, but a lot of them do, where it's like they're just playing along with the audience and they're putting on a show and they're laughing and they're pointing and doing this and that. And he was doing that all night, but it was Mike Portnoy, so it didn't bother me. And right. I think it helped. It kept it light. Like you need like a lightness, a sense of humor. Not that Petrucci, what he's doing is darker anyway, but it's so damn serious and technical and complicated musically, and your ear literally never gets a break from guitar. You don't get to hear piano or Jordan come in with something.
Yep.
Or any vocals come in, obviously. So like you need some kind of other distraction, I think, in a situation like that. And I thought the funniest part was I was telling my brother about, I was seeing the kit, because normally it's a kit so big that you can't even see him behind.
Keep going. I had the same exact thought. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, and then the other funny thing is they did not want to pull that giant blanket or whatever cover that was covering the kit until he came out. Like it was this big secret, hey, there's drums under here. Like, what was that whole deal? Like I thought like the body of Jimmy Hoffa or something was gonna, speaking of a Boomer reference, right? But nice. It's like, what is the big secret here? Like to hide Portnoy's drums from everyone? Like, I don't know, no one could see his drums. I thought that was kind of funny or just goofy.
Yeah, but,
it was. Yeah, when he came out and you could just tell the guys, considering what they've sort of been through with the whole drama behind it, like you can just tell they're just the best of friends, and I think that shows up.
Yep. Everett's tuning in. Everett, what's up, man? Good to see you, Everett. We just talked about our hangout last night. Thanks for having us and hosting again. We had a blast. I did. Brian obviously wasn't there, but yeah, I mean, so to your point, Robert Reams, he said they looked like they were having so much fun playing. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's like his goofy tricks and stuff. Like I get if you were watching just like an average drummer do that, it's like you kind of look at that and go, okay, well this guy's trying to take away from the fact that there's not much going on. But with Mike, it's just fun. It adds to the show. Like you said, it added a lightness. It made the show a little more personal. Like, I don't know if you saw, but there was one time he threw a stick across the stage to John Petrucci's guitar tech, Maddie. And he chucked it at him, and Maddie dropped it in this throw it back, and he threw it and he caught it. Like he was doing the bounce it off the snare a couple times, last night and tried to, catch it, So yeah, it was like as a showman, it's just again like I'll fall back on that word I used, a minute ago, like magnetism. You can't help but watch that guy. And it's like I think I finally nailed down last night why there is such a difference between Mangini in Dream Theater and Portnoy in Dream Theater. And I think, and before I say this, I don't want anybody listening to this or watching this to think like I'm campaigning for Portnoy to come back or, saying, Portnoy sucks compared to Mangini. It's not that. This is just two different drummers and there's two different vibes. And I've never quite been able to put my finger on why, Portnoy was so different from Mangini, even though they're playing pretty much the same stuff, I think it's like Portnoy feels like a rock drummer and acts like a rock drummer, and Mangini is much more, he's that precise, technical, progressive, it's like and I knew that before, but like now having seen it recently, we've seen John Petrucci play with Portnoy and Mangini inside of a year. I think it really kind of, you've got something to compare it against. So I think I really nailed that down. So I can see, the people that are, in that camp of, we got to get Mike Portnoy back. Like, okay, I get that. Like they do have this insane chemistry together and it's just ridiculous. But, Mangini brings so much to the band in a different way. And I think they're both great. And it was, I tell you what, man, like for me, it was really, really, it was so refreshing to see Portnoy with him again. It was like, because that's kind of like, not kind of like, it is nostalgic. That's kind of like what we remember and them like looking at each other and goofing off and stuff like that. And, like Robert Reams said, like you could tell they're really having fun. And it was just so much fun to see that. And I hope their collaborations continue. Like, this would be like the perfect situation if like Dream Theater continues in their current iteration and then John and Portnoy can continue to do stuff and, like maybe LTE keeps going or something. Like, wouldn't that be great? Because it's like you get the best of both worlds. You know what I mean?
Well, John, and obviously you remember this, he pointed out like, I met this guy when we were both 18 at Berkeley. And I think to go back to your point, he's so comfortable in his own skin and their relationship and their bond as brothers and having gone through all that. And I think there is a underlying pressure, whether it's real or not, that's felt by Mangini to come in. You're the outsider. Most of the people there don't even want you there, and you have to show that not only do you fit in, but that you're as good or better at the drummer than Mangini. And I think that's just an impossible thing to live up to. Okay. And so he never gets to really just get back there and relax, and he'll probably, if you did an interview, he probably will finally just now say, maybe I'm kind of starting to feel that way. And I'm sure the first, however many years it's been, 12 or whatever, we're not that way at all. And yeah. I just think it's just, it's different when you've gone through all that with somebody and you're friends with them and you've known that long and you're the new guy. It's just always going to be different. And I don't think there's any getting away from that. And it's weird because there was times when I just like, I almost forgot he was Mike Portnoy. Like, hey, he
right.
used to be in Dream Theater. And I just thought, he was the guy that we just saw in Sons of Apollo, like, yeah, I guess because it's been so long, not that I don't obviously remember or recognize that, but I just almost don't even think of him in that way anymore. But I think it's just, like I said, I think there's just a lot of undue weight and pressure and it's not a competition.
No. Chris Aiken. Hey, Nuno, it's Mike Mangini. Looks like I might be available to come back to Extreme soon. Oh, it's nothing like that. I would disagree with only one thing that you said. You said, that, and maybe you slipped like, being live, but you said like most fans are like, wanting Mike Portnoy back. You made reference to that. I don't think it's most. I mean, there's obviously that vocal segment that does, but I don't think it's most. That's the only thing
I shouldn't have said most, but let's just say if they have 3 million fans around the world and half, are against you, you know what I mean? Like,
yep. We got a couple good points in the chat. Michael Gall Production says, I think Mangini doesn't have the full writing partnership in Dream Theater that Portnoy did. I think Portnoy had a lot more sway. You're 100% accurate. I mean, Portnoy was the leader. He started everything. I mean, it's, to phrase it pretty simply, I mean, some people are more comfortable in like a leadership role. Some people are more comfortable kind of like being behind the scenes and stuff. Like, Brian, I think like you and I, like, you're more comfortable like in kind of like a co-host roles, like with, whereas I'm more comfortable like bellowing and doing the show intro and all that kind of stuff. It's, you know what I mean? It's like a different personality type, I think. Kristen Goodwin says, poor Mike Mangini, I say it all the time. He's just amazing and a great guy. I feel like it's never enough for some people. That was a Dream Theater pun without you even knowing it, Kristen. But yeah, I completely agree with that too. The thing that I liked most about last night, I can't say most, but I was really happy about, there was not a single note of Dream Theater music. And we talked about this at the Dream Theater USA fan club hangout. We were, positing whether or not they would. And we all agreed, like, there's no way, because as soon as you play, like, even like the tiniest thing, then the fans are just going to go bonkers. Like, oh, they played Dream Theater, he's coming back. Like, and the security guy that we met up with at that hangout told us that he was there for sound check and was watching it, and they played The Odd Father, and then they started playing Pull Me Under. So in the sound check, they were playing Dream Theater stuff, and we kind of laughed about that because it was like, you guys haven't been on stage together in over a decade.
Yep.
And you're going to play Dream Theater together, and you play fucking Pull Me Under. Like,
I would have loved for them to come out on the encore and just start out those beginning notes on guitar just to watch people lose their mind.
I know, right?
Knowing that they're not really going to play it, but I don't know. It'd just be fun,
Just or like while the lights are all down, you're like expecting the encores to go bam, 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 bam. The crowd goes nuts and wait like 3 minutes, and they just walk out and play something completely different. Just completely tease everybody. That would just be so funny. So, yeah, I mean, dude, this show was like, I will say it was really loud. I was like half deaf leaving last night, but I was on the floor, like right up by the stage. But the sound was fantastic. I will say with the mix, I would have liked a little bit more drums and bass, because it was, obviously it's Petrucci, so it's going to be guitar heavy because that's what you're there to see. But I think at some point, some points of the show, I should say, the dynamics were lost just a hair for me, because there wasn't enough of, the bass fill, and, it just, but that's like the most minor gripe. Otherwise, I thought it was absolutely fucking killer. I mean, that's really my overarching take on the whole show. It was just unbelievable. And not that you go in there wondering whether or not it's going to be good or whether you're going to enjoy it. Like, it's going to kick ass, but like, man, literally, like I said at the beginning of the show, like, you just, after every song, you just go, God damn. like what are we watching here? So,
yeah, I guess we probably don't want to just go song by song and do the whole thing that way, but I had some notes on some songs. Like, so
sure, go for it.
We'll just go quick. So it's Terminal Velocity starts off, happy song. I love that.
I was thinking of you exactly when that hit. I was like, dude, Hendrix is up there going, yeah.
Oh, man. I was kind of bummed they played it so early, but that's cool. Anyway, Jaws of Life, and then Odd Father, and he talks about it, and then there's that super fast picking where it's like, yep. And obviously it's a twist on the Godfather theme song, right? But it's like,
yep.
How does he play that part so fast? Like, I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Like, and then that song has so many. And he even admitted at the end of this, he's like, "That's a really crazy song." I forgot what word did he use. He's like, "That is a really ridiculously crazy song."
Yeah.
Like, he even was like, I don't even know where that came, like, because it just keeps building and building and building, and it has that insane tapping thing at the end, which I absolutely love.
Yep.
Like, and he's able to just keep working that in, and I just don't know. Like, you can see somebody go shred, and you could see somebody jam. Like this. Right. This is not that. This is just taking a melodic element, constantly adding it, constantly evolving it, sometimes adding a second and third motif movement, however you want to look at it, phrase to it. But I don't know how there's a couple songs where it's not, maybe some of the stuff off the first album where it's, it's not quite as developed, but most of them are. And it's just like, how does he keep doing this? And then how does he keep doing with Dream Theater too? Like, okay, well, I'll play the same melody. Now we'll go an octave higher, and I'll kind of change the sound a little bit so you don't know it, but it's the same song, but it sounds a little bit different, but it's progressing, it's moving on. And out of the blue, that's probably one of the only few ones where I was like, eh. But then I'm like, you know what? If he's going to play a blues type song, I want it to sound like that, fusion.
Well, yeah. See, and that was my reaction to it. I was like, oh my God, what can't he do?
Yeah.
He goes into that, and it's like I kind of got a vibe like Since I've Been Loving You by Led Zeppelin, like that.
Yep.
And it was so mellow and laid back like that. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was like a Gary Moore type feel. But then after that, they go into, and we'll talk about this because I know you want to talk about this, Tunnel Vision. Probably my favorite song on the first album.
Okay.
Absolutely love that song. And then that's the song where at the end they do the drums thing that Mangini. There I go. Portnoy.
Yeah.
Portnoy did, where it's just like da, 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 and then he just keeps playing and playing, and like
that's
you
what
said,
I got video of. Yep.
3 minutes long, but I started to get that vibe of like, ooh, it kind of sounds like Metropolis a little bit. Da, 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 da. I was waiting for just kind of like you were talking about, like, were they going to do Dream Theater? I was like, I started to feel, because I've always kind of thought the end of that anyway sort of had a Metropolis type feel the way he starts doing that.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
But then, man, they dragged that out for almost 3 minutes, and Portnoy just keeps throwing in the coolest thing, double bass and changing the time signature. And it was never overblown like, oh, Mike Portnoy is going to do a solo. It was just always this contained, very musical type thing. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. Like, and I thought this one was the point where okay, so follow me here. Like, let me finish my statement because it's going to sound shitty at first. I thought this was where one of those, to me, I love these moments when I see live bands go into like an improv section. At first, when he kept going and going and going, I'm like, okay, this is getting lengthy. But it went on so long that it got cool again, like, if that makes sense. Like, and I just love that. And that's why I started taking video, like, when I realized it was just going to keep going and looping around, that whatever that heavy guitar riff, and Portnoy's just doing all these different things. I was like, dude, he's going to go over top of this in every, different 6 ways to Sunday he can possibly think of. Like, I love that. And, but you absolutely nailed it. Like, there was never, it's like, okay, he's just going to sit here and do a drum solo like that. That never happened. We'll get back to your notes in a quick second, because I want to ask you a real quick question about that. Like, how surprised were you that there wasn't that just, hey, here's Mike Portnoy? Like, it was the solo parts that he had were, they had musical accompaniment. It was part of the presentation. It wasn't just, okay, like Dave LaRue had like a cool little thing, but that was more of a solo than Portnoy got. And I was really surprised by that. I mean, I guess I shouldn't have been, but were you surprised by that? Or
honestly, no, because I don't think Petrucci's put this together with that in mind, as much as he appreciates how insane of a drummer Portnoy is. And I think maybe he kind of thinks a little bit like we do and like the fans do, try to keep it musical, a drum solo to me can be cool, but I don't know that there's anything all that musical about it. You know what I mean? Sure. I don't know. And that sounds like a weird word to use, I guess. But yeah, I think it was, I think it was a great choice not to do, something like that, because I guess it gets to a point of like, okay, if he's going to do a solo, you can't have Mike Portnoy do like a 2-minute drum solo, but you don't want him up there for 20 minutes either. So then like, it's always, well, what's the perfect length of a drum solo and all this and that. And going back to my notes on a couple things here, after listening to some of the songs today, I have a question for you. I'm trying to figure out if we missed having a rhythm guitar.
I would say no. I mean, you notice it because, he does layer his solo records, because I don't think the intention was ever to tour it.
Right.
But, dude, when you've got John Petrucci ripping your face off, especially for me, like 10 feet in front of you, who gives a shit about a rhythm guitar? I mean, are we there to see power chords and single note riffs low on the neck? Like, no, give me the shred.
No, I'm not saying that, but just on after going back and listening to Oddfather, because I'd only kind of heard the song a couple times before, and then after seeing it live, I was like, I got to go back and listen to this again. I was like, man, there's a lot of parts that I think would just stand out and sing even more if we had the second guitar playing those. You know what I mean? And it's always easy to go back after the fact now, listen to it, and go, oh crap,
Yeah, I mean, you can do it. I mean, I've seen Marty Friedman live twice, and I mean, holy shit! Like anybody watching or listening back, like if Marty Friedman comes around on a solo tour, whatever you do, run, don't walk. That is not just some like dude standing. His backing band absolutely jumps around and they thrash. Like the drummer was hanging from the rafters at one point at the second show I saw. Like they're fantastic. So, but Marty Friedman had a rhythm guitar player, Jordan Ziff, and they were doing like the harmonizing. They were harmonizing all that stuff, and so I mean, it definitely fills out the sound. I don't know. It didn't bother me as much as it might have you were thinking about it. I really wasn't. I'm like, it's John Petrucci. Just let's go.
Well,
So,
at the time, I wasn't thinking about it at all, but just after going back and listening, it's just kind of interesting.
sure. Okay.
And after Tunnel Vision, they go into Damage Control, another cool song off the first one. Snake in My Boot. That was awesome, man. Like,
Yep.
I don't know, that has like kind of greasy 80s, like, riff. I don't know. It sounds sort of hair metal-y, swamp boogie-ish mixed together. But yeah, you got the crowd clapping along to that one and stuff. That's just another really kind of odd, super cool song with a lot of cool stuff in it.
Yep. And then you got
Temple of Circadia. Was that our last one?
Temple of Circadia. I was gonna say, like, every time I think about this song, I think about Wayne Joyner's video because it's just so goddamn cool. Like,
yeah,
our buddy Wayne, man, that video is, oh my god, I love all of his stuff, but Temple of Circadia might be my favorite one that he's done. Like, that is just so unbelievably cool. So
I'll have to watch it again. I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, I mean, and then obviously you knew the encore was going to be Glasgow Kiss. You can't have a John Petrucci show without that. I mean, he plays it everywhere. It's kind of like Marty Friedman, mentioning him again, doing a show and not playing the Tornado of Souls solo from Megadeth. So, yeah, the whole thing was just, it was like, I mean, it was an hour and 45 minutes, and I think it was like perfectly timed, at least for me, because it was like, right as you're like, all right, I'm ready to go. They hit Temple of Circadia, and okay, this is going to be the last song. And then, there's going to be an encore. So you could finally be like, all right, there's 2 more songs. I'm cool, because I love shred guitar. I love everything that happened. But after you've listened to it for about an hour and a half, you're like, okay, like, I got an hour and a half's worth of jams in. Let's go. And it was, so I thought the show was perfectly timed. I don't think anybody left disappointed. I don't think anybody left going, oh, that was way too long. And I mean, it was really perfect, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. I cheated like a week or two ago and I was like, I just want to see what they're playing, basically.
What is it with you in the set list, man?
I don't know. Well, I sort of wanted to familiarize myself with some of the stuff on the first album that I didn't listen to that much. And then turns out they didn't play much of it anyway.
Yeah, right.
They didn't play that. Is it Thinking of You, or the one that kind of has the Satriani slower ballad off the first one? I really like that song, and I like the very last song on there too. That was kind of bummed we didn't get those, but I was so glad that we got Tunnel Vision because that's just killer.
Yeah,
but
like I said, I was really surprised that we only got 4 songs out of 11 off of Suspended Animation. I was really surprised by that. I was, I mean, he really treated it like a new tour. It was like, it was interesting to me. But I mean, the new record is so goddamn good that it's like, okay, you can't really complain, right?
Oh, I know the one that I was bummed. I love Glass-Eyed Zombies. I absolutely love that off the new album. Like that, that to me almost has there's almost a John 5 type vibe going on now. And I was like, man, I wish he played. And he didn't. When I saw that wasn't on there, I was kind of bummed. But
right,
but, the rest of it's, like you said, sounds so good. So who cares?
Yeah, I mean, overall, dude, it was absolutely mind blowing. It was just, I mean, God, like I say, it was nostalgic to see him in Portnoy again, and I still feel guilty. I was barely watching Dave LaRue, and I really wanted to because he's just a world-class player. But, I mean, even the lighting, that's one thing I would say. Even the lighting was like mostly on just like John and Mike. So it's like poor Dave LaRue. It's like, at least he's collecting a paycheck, right?
Oh, he knows no one's there to see him. I mean, he's got the easiest job in the world. He's the backup quarterback.
Yep.
Making $3 million a year, and I mean, But
Yeah.
he was awesome. I mean, I, this is not to disparage him, but I don't think it would have mattered who was up there playing bass when
Yeah.
you've got those two out there, unless it was My Young. But even My Young, when he's with Dream Theater, it's like, oh man, he's awesome. But you're watching Petrucci, or you're watching everybody else other usually than My Young, because he just kind of stands there and just does his effortless thing, like he's not even like breathing barely, because he's so damn good, like
Yeah.
you have to try.
No, it was, dude, it was incredible. It was just one of those things, like, we may never see it again. Like, my wife, she was asking me, like, I think I've seen Dream Theater it's either 21 or 22 times now. And she was asking me when I bought the tickets, like, why are you going? Like, you've seen that band so many times. I'm like, yeah, but this isn't their music. It's like, it's the guitar player. It's like he's doing solo stuff. Like, and she's like, but haven't you seen him a ton of times already? And I said, well, yeah, but like, this is different. And I may never see this again. This may be the only solo tour he ever gets to do. So I think that kind of added to how cool it was to see it. I mean, how do you feel about that? Because for me, I was like, God damn, that'd be cool if he only does the one tour and we can say, hell yeah, I was in Cleveland, man. I saw that.
Yeah, because it's a timing thing and it's a money thing. I'm shocked that it's sold out. I mean, it looked like it was sold out, but to me, you just never know anymore how this stuff's going to go. I mean, people just don't buy instrumental albums, and they don't buy albums period anymore. I don't know how many people downloaded it and actually paid for it or whatever, but just financially, that, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just hard to justify. You can't go out there and lose money, and he's got to play.
Yeah.
They got to pay Portnoy and LaRue and and everything else.
Yeah. Well, before we get out of here, one of the things we wanted to do at the end of this was, since we're talking about instrumental music, you and I wanted to bring some stuff to the table that we really get into. Instrumental records. Oh, I'm sorry. You had 3 instrumental songs. I misunderstood the assignment. I thought you said 3 instrumental records, so I'm looking at records, and the other day you were like, yeah, I picked my 3 songs. I was like, wait, what? 3 songs?
Well, that's not totally true. I had 2 albums, and then I ended up with 1 song. So
okay,
we'll just do this however we do it. We didn't put too much thought into it, like most stuff.
Yeah. We just kind of wanted to throw our 2 cents, our 2 cents worth out there. Interesting. Michael Gall Productions is mentioning a guitar player I'm about to mention. He says, I like Zakk Wylde, but Petrucci needs to replace him in Generation X. Michael, I am going to completely disagree with you on that. I think Zakk Wylde brings a straight up heavy metal, hard rock vibe to that tour that would not otherwise be there. I really like what Zakk brings, like attitude wise and like crowd participation wise. So I'm actually going to disagree with you there. I love John Petrucci, love him to death, but I think just adding more straight shred, like technicality to that tour, I think Zakk adds something different. So I like that he's there.
Is that like another version of G3 or something? I haven't heard of that.
Yeah. Oh, go look up the record, dude. It's God. Someone correct me in the chat if I'm wrong here. So I think it's 5 guitar players. It's okay. It's Yngwie, Steve Vai, Zakk Wylde, Nuno Bettencourt, and oh God, is it Satriani? I'm gonna get crucified for this, but someone in the chat who knows better than I do, post the 5 guitar players. But yeah, I can't believe you don't know about this. Yeah, they did a tour of it. They've got a record of it and everything, and it's, oh my God. So yeah, but yeah, so Brian and I wanted to kind of just bring up a couple instrumental records or artists that we are really into, since we're talking about Petrucci and his solo tour. Not sure. I'm sure mine you guys have heard of, but Jack's Guitar said it's Tosin of Animals as leaders. Okay, so Tosin Abasi was the 5th one. Okay, all right. So you had 2 albums and a song. I have 2 artists and 1 record. So let's get to your song first. So your song was the Gilberto Concerto.
Yes.
So I'll let you talk about that, because I have some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, it's a Bach concerto that
he
does.
Sorry to cut you off, because I have to ask. Like, did he write this originally, or is this an actual, like, is this a cover?
No, it's a Baroque classical piece by the great Johann Sebastian Bach. So
or
it's
or Johann, if you're counting at home, speaking properly.
sorry, Johann
Proper,
Sebastian
yeah.
Bach.
Sebastian. So
Yeah, no,
anyway, sorry.
I'm a huge Bach fan. When I first started piano, like I love like this, the counter melodies, the counterpoints, the beautiful melodic harmonies. And there's a math to Bach. It always kind of resolves, and it's always major, it's always happy, it's always upbeat. It's always kind of fun and with a little bit of a serious undertone. But I've always loved anything Bach's ever done, and I probably enjoyed playing that the most, and it was easier for me to play and pick up on just because of how mathematical it was. I could see how things were going to always sort of go.
Sure.
That's also the knock that people have on it. Well, it's simplistic and this and that, and I'm like, which is bullshit to me. I mean, it's
Thank you.
amazing classical Baroque music, and the way that Gilbert attacks this on guitar, and I mean, it's just layers upon layers of all of these harmonies, and I don't know, it has that feeling of like sort of this time of year, like it's, I'm not comparing it to like the Messiah or whatever, but it's, I don't know,
Yeah.
it has a holiday wintry type of feel, like you feel like you're going to go down to watch Cleveland Orchestra play or something, or or the New York Philharmonic, and they're going to bust this out, and I don't know, I just thought it was amazing and amazingly well done, and it's actually on an album, one of his solo albums called Flying Dog.
Yep.
Excuse me, which actually turns out is the only instrumental on that album. So
wow, okay. I didn't know he
rest,
had vocals on anything. All right.
Yeah, he does have a bunch of vocals. I thought it was okay. It's kind of like it had a very sort of enough's enough type feel to me, I guess. Maybe Beatlesy, enough-ish, little bit of Cheap Trick thrown in there, kind of, in terms of when he was singing stuff. And the songs, I'm interested to kind of go back now and sort of listen to the rest of the songs. But yeah, I remember seeing this video like years and years and years ago, and I just assumed it was on one of his instrumental albums. So when I went to search it out, then I find out, oh wait, never mind, it's on this. But I'm like, I have to bring this up just because I think it sounds so good.
Sure. Yeah, my first one, I'll do an artist first, and anybody who's watched the show or listened to the show, even maybe once or twice, has probably heard me mention this guy, Marcos Fogli. I cannot get enough Marcos Fogli. He's got 3 records. The first one is "There's Hope." It's in 2008. "Remarkable," 2012, and then "Homeland" in 2019. And I just absolutely love Marcos playing. He was on a couple James LaBrie solo records. He was on the most recent one, actually. He did a lot of acoustic guitar solos on A Beautiful Shade of Gray. Dude, he's just always got this huge melody in everything. It's just unbelievable. I've got a list of like 10 songs or something across the 3 records as like suggestions, and I first discovered Marco because I think it was on YouTube. I was going down a guitar rabbit hole at work one time, and I'd watched a video, and then it was set on autoplay, and something else came up, and it's just this crazy guitar jam. Like, what the hell is that? And I looked at the screen. I pulled up, and it was this guy Marcos Fogli. His album's called "Remarkable." I'm like, well, that's kind of cheesy of a title, kind of cool though, and so I went down that Marco rabbit hole. I looked at the record. I was like, oh, my God. And I've been hooked ever since. I've turned a lot of my friends on to Marco's stuff. We're trying to get Marco on the show. Hopefully this helps because I'm fanboying all over him. But, it's just all these different things. And, it's basically, if you're into the John Petrucci solo stuff, I think you'll love the Marco stuff because it's in the same vein. There's always that melody throughout. It's a little more straightforward. There's not nearly as much prog in Marco's stuff, but I mean, he's got like jazz in there. He's got rock. He's got metal. All these kind of different styles. And again, just when that guy solos, it's like he just bleeds melody. Like, I don't think he could do a discordant solo if his life depended on it. You could pay that guy $1 million to do his discordant solo, and it wouldn't happen. So, I mean, it's just, there's so many great things about his catalog. And again, the 3 records are "There's Hope," "Remarkable," and "Homeland." So go check those out. I cannot say enough good things about Marcos Fogli. Like, And again, I hope, look, we actually have an Enough's Enough comment before we get to your next selection. Michael Gall Productions, Enough's Enough is strange without Donnie V. You can't replace that voice. That is a whole other conversation. And I really wish Chris Aiken was watching right now because he could totally comment on that. But
Yeah.
Brian, over under. Is that the only time we'll ever have an Enough's Enough reference or a Donnie V reference on Talking Into Infinity?
Probably only Donnie V. Well, we might get another Enough's Enough one, I bet.
I think you mentioned them before, so I think you did bring them up at some point. But
yeah.
All right, so your next one again. We each have 3 real quick ones, and then we'll close up shop for the night. But
yeah, I picked Joe Satriani's "Flying in a Blue Dream," and
not surfing with the alien. Okay.
Yeah, I guess that one was too obvious. Great album too, but I love the title track on "Flying in a Blue Dream." I don't know if you ever heard it, but it starts out it's like with a clean, almost acoustic picking thing, and then it just goes into just one of those classic Satriani melodies. It just keeps boring deeper and deeper in your brain and twisting around, and a couple other highlights. There's a song called "Mystical Potato Head Groove Thing." It's just like it's like almost like these Southern fried, bluesy, swampy type riffs. The one bad thing is this is when he does start singing, so his songs can't slow down like he sings on. I don't know. I don't really want to hear Joe Satriani sing. Like,
all right, so I'm going to ask you a question. Feet to the fire. Would you rather hear Joe Satriani sing, or would you rather hear Yngwie Malmsteen sing?
Oh God! If I'm going to see them live, probably Joe Satriani.
There you go. Joseph Wren, good to see you, man. Discuss Metal Joe says, Brian, no Engines of Creation.
I don't know if that's a Satriani or not. He has so many albums. I'll fully admit there's no way I can keep up with all of the albums that all these guys put out anymore.
We finally stumped the Hendo. Like they got Stump the Trunk. We're gonna have Stump the Hendo on here.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. Trust me. There's just too much out there anymore. It's really difficult.
Are you kidding me? You just went. Yeah, I'm a big Bach fan, and I'm over here going, I like Van Halen.
Well, also Bach hasn't released anything since I don't know 1704 or whatever.
I've heard he's got a new record coming out. I've heard it's a banger.
Michael, I wanted to ask you this one. Did your friend figure out how to transfer a ticket?
All right. So real quick story. We'll get to our last couple ones here. So Michael Gall, yeah. Did your friend figure out how to transfer a ticket? No, he did not. So my buddy Jimmy, I love him to death. I go to Dream Theater shows with him. Brian has been with him, met him and stuff, hang out. And but man, it's certain things. Jimmy is a complete idiot, and I had bought us tickets, and he wasn't sure when he was going to get downtown to the show. So I was like, all right, I'll just do it, transfer. So I go and ticket. I'm like, what's your email address? Type it in. Did the transfer. And it's just sitting there. And after like a month, I'm like, idiot, are you going to accept this transfer? I don't know how to do it. There's nothing that says accept the transfer. So long story short, I tried this transfer with him 3 times. Never worked. This dingbat. So finally, I'm like, just meet me downtown, whatever. So we met up, and yeah, he could not figure out how to accept a ticket transfer on Ticketmaster. He's not the sharpest stick in the drawer. I love him to death. He's a great, great, great friend of mine. Been friends for over 20 years. But man, he's an idiot sometimes. So that's a long way of answering your question, Michael Gall. No, Jimmy did not figure out how to transfer a ticket. So.
Oh, we have another comment from Metal Joe. JT loves Beethoven. Ask him how much.
That's what you're gonna do. The Beethoven.
It's just a movie about a dog. Like I don't know what the big deal is.
The dog's name is Beethoven, dude. The conductor is the composer and conductor is Beethoven. So.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I get it right. So the next one that I have, dude. Another art. I have Pliny, and I'm sure a lot of people that are listening are familiar with him. There's really not a good way to classify. It's all over the place. And he's got 2 albums. He's got Handmade Cities in 2016, Impulse Voices in 2020, and he's got a bunch of EPs of a couple songs here and there. He's got a couple singles. He basically kind of does everything. I mean, it's like metal to fusion to jazz to like all these different weird styles. It's always interesting. There's not really a good way to say, oh, here's a song you got to listen to if you want to get into Pliny. It's like, just look up Pliny and pull up one of the two records, like I say, Handmade Cities or Impulse Voices, and just listen to it. Like it's really interesting to the ear. I'm really pissed off because a couple of years ago he actually came to him. I think he's Australian or something. I want to say Australian. And he came to America for a tour, and he's playing in Columbus, Ohio. It's just some tiny bar, and it was on a Sunday night, and I had like management meetings on Monday, and I just could not go. It's a 2-hour drive, each way, and I just couldn't make it. I'm so pissed. But to our buddy Cale McLeish, if you are listening, he is touring very soon in Australia. You've got to go see Pliny. So he's got a lot of Australian dates, so go check out Pliny. And to those of you guys watching or listening, again, check him out. It's crazy. It's hard to describe. It's just, it's great instrumental. Like if you like heavy stuff, like funk stuff, like there's something for everybody, man. It's really cool. So Pliny is number 2 on my list of 3. So what do you still have remaining?
I put the second album by probably one of my all-time favorite musicians, guitar players, Tony McAlpine's Maximum Security.
Nice.
This has some great guest appearances. Jeff Watson from Night Ranger, George Lynch, Dean Castronova is on a bunch. The thing I love about this album the most, and he did it on his first album too, is just there's this really cool, decent, subtle amount of keyboard programming going on. There's nothing too totally insane, but it just really, I think it fills up the mix awesome. I mean, listening to this now, it sort of sinks in, oh my God, this is 35 years old,
Right.
Well, the production is obviously going to sound a little dating, but the melodies to me just still sound great. And there's enough prog and shred in it. And he also does a Chopin, an etude, however you want to say it, on piano. Like it's 400 million miles an hour. I'll have to play it for you sometime. You're just like, I don't know how a human being can play that. So, he's basically a classically trained concert pianist that can play guitar like it's just nobody's business. And he throws in, that classical piano piece in the midst of all this awesome shredding. And just a great album. It's one of those albums that, I don't know, probably almost every 2-3 months, I just throw it on and listen to at least half of it. It's just one of those that I can never get away from. It's just a great album in my book.
Awesome. Yeah, my final choice, dude, is maybe this is recency bias. I don't know if it is, because I like a lot of his stuff, but Derek Sherinian's newest record, Vortex. I love it. The songs are, they're concise. I think there's like an 11-minute song at the end, but I mean the longest one other than it's like 6.5, and otherwise they're like 4.5. It's obviously very, rock oriented, like to his thing. It's like, and I think I probably like this one because it's very guitar oriented. Like, I mean, the guest guitarist on this one, he's got Steve Stevens, Joe Bonamassa, Bumblefoot, Michael Schenker, Zach Wilde, Mike Stern, and Nuno Betancourt. And there's just so much going on in here, but it's all concise and it just rocks. And it's not too long. It's an easy listen. And if you're into Derek's playing, it's fantastic. He really plays off the guitars really well, and it is just a really cool record. There's a couple really funky songs on here. Scorpion is one of them. It's just this weird jazzy piano thing that he does. Key Lime Blues, it's not blues. It's like this. It's got this really poppy kind of sound. Like it's really, really cool, man. It's just a great record, and hopefully we can get Derek on the show sometime and, do an interview with him, and let's see. That'd be a blast. So, all right. I think you have one more, don't you?
I'll throw in one more. Actually, I only had 3, but
okay. I figured you had one more. So
yeah, I mean, I got to go with the guy that I always kind of still make fun of, only because I just know what he did at one time. But the first Yngwie album, I mean, it just Far Beyond the Sun, Black Star, the vocal stuff that Jeff Scott Soto was on. It's the first time that I'd ever heard Jeff Scott Soto.
Yep.
A lot of these guys would never even gotten a chance to make instrumental albums if it wasn't for Yngwie. That's just kind of a fact. And he's a guy that I think is so lost in his own ego, unfortunately, and been that way
Yeah.
for quite some time. And it's sad. And I've come on the show many times, and somehow it's the topic of Yngwie's come up, and I don't know. It's just sad to me because there's no reason he cannot be making quality music with quality musicians around him right now, but he's just too stubborn, set in his own ways. But yeah, the first Yngwie Malmsteen, Rising Force. I mean, that's just a masterpiece front to back.
Well, there you go, man. I knew you had one more, so I was like, I got to bring this up. So, yeah, dude, this was a blast. It was, hanging out at the show last night was cool, and man, like I said earlier, like we may never ever, we may never get to see that again. It's he said my first ever solo tour. Like, okay, well, you've gone what 16 years between solo records or 15 or whatever. So who knows when it's going to happen again. So it was really cool to, it was great that we had a date in town, because otherwise we would have had to travel, and all the weekend dates that were within driving distance I couldn't make. And you and I like to go if it's in driving distance, as much as we hate spending time together.
Yeah,
we like to make road trips together to go see these things. So it was cool that we just got to drive right down the road, somewhat, and catch it in our hometown.
I'm curious if, maybe we're thinking this wrong. Maybe because that they're all older, they're not going to want to tour as much in Dream Theaters, so they'll fill their time doing this kind of stuff. Maybe filling in these dates here and there. But again, time is not infinite. So
yeah,
this, I don't know. I guess if we're betting on, what would you put a percentage chance we get another Petrucci show in Cleveland? I don't know, 15. Is that high?
How about another tour, not just a show in Cleveland? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you would have to think if he does do another tour, you would think you'd try to hit other cities that he didn't hit on this one, right?
Yeah, I just know lately, like Cleveland, just like Anthrax, just everything. Nothing comes there anymore. It's just it just does not. Alter Bridge, with Wolfgang, I don't know. These bands just are not coming to Cleveland. I don't know if we just don't have the right venue, the right size, but it just seems like you got to go somewhere else to see these almost all the time. So I put it very low that we would get Petrucci back here.
I would agree. Like I said, I don't even know what the percentage of him doing another solo tour period is. So, yeah, I guess we will see. So, dude, this was fun. Our next episode, excuse me, is not actually going to be on Thursday in 2 weeks. It's going to be on Wednesday. So it'll be Wednesday, November 30th, because on Thursday, December 1st, you and I are going to be seeing Jeff Tate. So
we are. It's my special birthday show. And
yes.
So we will have a special birthday podcast that I have to figure out what we're going to do.
I was just about to say, because it's your birthday for Jeff Tate, since we're doing the show on Wednesday that week on November 30th, you get to pick the topic. Have you chosen something yet?
No, I better get on it quick though. I don't want to wait till the last minute. So
yeah, I like to set up the next show at the end of doing this show. So, all right, you've got 2 minutes. Sorry, pick something.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's going to be Brian's birthday show in 2 weeks. Again, it is on Wednesday, November 30th. It is not going to be on Thursday, December 1st. So it'll be on a Wednesday. And then after that, we are going to be live. It'll be back on Thursday. And we got a couple jacked up dates coming up. It is going to be Thursday, December 15th, and we are doing a deep dive into Sons of Apollo's Psychotic Symphony. And we have reached out to somebody who might join us to deep dive it. Absolutely nothing has been confirmed or even responded to yet, but we are trying to get somebody pretty cool to deep dive Psychotic Symphony with us. And the show after that, ladies and gentlemen, is on Friday, December 30th, and that is the annual fan hangout. So, as we've said on previous shows, if you would like to take part in the fan hangout, if you would like to jump on camera and co-host Talking Into Infinity, just send us an email to talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com, and we'll send you the details, and you guys can come on and talk about whatever you would like music related with Brian and I. Help lead the show. That's always a fun one. We've done it once, so when I say always, I mean it was a fun one when we did it last year. But yeah, that's going to be a good episode. So we've got Our very next episode will be on Wednesday, November 30th. It is Brian's birthday episode, and he's going to pick the topic. So he's going to spin the wheel and see what lands. So, dude, this was a total blast. And thanks, everybody, for tuning into the chat. It was Michael Gall Productions. Great to hang out with you last night. Obviously, Robert Reams, good to hang out. Jack's Guitars. Kristen Goodwin, good to see you live. Dude, all of our very good friends. Joe Gebhardt, thanks for tuning in. John Horgan, good to see you, man. Chris Aiken. And Brian, let's do this all again in a couple weeks. You are on the clock, my friend. Figure out a topic and let's do it.
All right, sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, thanks very much for tuning in to another episode of Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater podcast. We will see you on November 30th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the cmsnetwork.com. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button. And, guys, as always, until next time, Carpe Diem.